It's just a quick piece. We will call the meeting to order at 6:07. We do have a quorum. Hopefully Lauren is feeling better after her concussion. First order of business is to accept the minutes of our regular meeting from October 9th. Do I have a motion?
You sure do. So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh, we have to do a roll call because Steve is remote. Steve?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. Pete?
Yes.
Okay, aye, it is unanimous. All right, visitor comments. Is there anybody here for something that is not on the agenda? All right, hearing none. I think we have folks here to talk about the museum committee and the ferry. Should we take the museum committee out of order and then go back into order? Is that comfortable for folks? All right.
Motion to move out of order and slide new business to right now.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Steve?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. Pete?
Yes.
Shay? Aye. All right, next up, museum committee. Wanting to form a 501c3 for restoration.
Yeah. Basically, what we'd like to do is to be able to have access to more money that's not coming from the island. For us to qualify to some of the major corporations like the Lighthouse Trust is the biggest one. And with the $10 million bond issue that is before the voters now, if that passes, my guess is that the Lighthouse Trust will be handling it. And the Lighthouse Trust will not accept any applications from a non-501. That which basically means the state, people that own lighthouses or anything like that, the towns are really 170. Even though you're nonprofit, you have a different criteria involved. So basically, we're just trying to leverage as much money as we can from as many sources, and this is the way we feel is the best way for that to happen. Any questions?
So I know that we've consulted Kristen Collins, who's our town council, who asked for the mission statement and some of the projects. So thank you for going through that summary. And it sounds like, you know, if we were to green light moving this forward today, there is a process ahead of getting this established. Just for clarification, you're not looking for a land, are you looking for a land transfer and ownership of the lighthouse to change to go to this 501c3, or the 501c3 is really programmatic for supporting infrastructure that would remain town owned? Okay.
It would become more of a friends of.
Yep.
And we haven't had an in-depth discussion within the lighthouse. We have talked about the pros and cons and all that. But I believe the town's attorney thinks it's a good idea from her, what she wrote, which would be great, everybody on the same wavelength. But we're happy to answer any questions. I hope that synopsis tells you a little bit more about what we have done, what we are doing. And we have a lot of things we have in front of us, so we don't want to burden the town any more than possible.
No, I appreciate, I feel like this committee has been incredibly active and proactive in identifying what needs to be done and being thoughtful about how to use resources outside of tax dollars to make sure that we can keep up this important historical
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Can I just add something, Shay?
Yeah.
The $10 million bond issue, I'm pretty sure is for lighthouses owned by municipalities and or ones owned by charities.
There, I've re-researched it and just to kind of help explain, there's a bond, or there's going to be an option on the ballot for specifically the Maine Lighthouse Trust, if they're going to open it up. Right now, they only give money to 501Cs and have denied us because we're the 701C. There is a ballot or a measure on the ballot to expand it, but it is not well known. It is not well, broadcasted or anything like that. And so this was more of a really good preventative step in case that bond measure fails. But on the flip side of that, if it fails and they're like, nope, it needs to stay 501C because people don't understand it or aren't involved with it. There is also other federal and national, federal, and private that will only give money to 501Cs that don't want to give money to 701s. And so it's kind of a twofold system to just make sure that we have our ducks in a row to continue to keep the lighthouse lit.
Any other questions or comments?
It sounds like a great idea. We do it with the library, there's a lot of success there. Do you need anything more from us other than just our simple approval? Is there? Well, right, I could use some money from us too. But, other than just us putting our support behind you, or?
Well, I do think our lawyer estimated it'd be about $1,500 to go through this process.
Is that something, did we pay fund that for other, like for the Friends of the Library?
That they were established so long ago.
They're almost 50 years old, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that, yeah.
And
but-
I think the ambulance one had a lawyer friend that was able to do it without. And so,
Right, I mean, it's something
I think
we
should do it no matter
we
what,
budget for, to be able to use our town lawyer's time to be able to address community needs, so, I would feel comfortable. It sounds like you maybe wanna make a motion to,
I would make a motion to accept their plan and support the library, the lighthouse. Forming to a 501c3. I think it's a great idea.
second,
Second.
any further discussion? Go ahead, Ed.
I just had a question, because in the library, there's the Friends of the Library, and then there's the library trustees. Would we continue as the library committee and then form another Lighthouse committee, and then form the Friends, or would we just become the Friends of the Lighthouse?
I think that's gonna have to be a further discussion that we have as a group. Per the lawyer, with the recommendation from the lawyer, what she had recommended that it would turn into the 501 and we could do away with the town controlled lighthouse committee. But I think that would be something that would be addressed in guidance and bylaws, and that it needs to be done as a committee, as a discussion before we make a decision on it, unless you guys feel strongly one way or another.
No, I agree. I feel like it's a question that should be answered as part of the process as we go through this, and an update that, updated discussion as before. There's lots of steps that need to happen before approval, so I think it's an important question, though. Thank you for raising it. Any other questions, discussion? All right, all those in favor, Steve? Aye. Melissa? Aye. Pete? Jay? Aye. Thank you all.
That's my committee.
All right, with that, we will
Thank you, guys.
move back into our normal agenda order.
I second that.
Would you be upset if we were?
No, you're fine.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for showing us your support.
All right. Ferry service update. Peter Wilcox, thank you for joining us in person tonight.
There are 2 points to bring up. 2 points to bring up. One is that e-bikes are no longer considered motorcycles. The commissioner, Bruce Van Note, understands that we don't like bicycles on the island. He charges them accordingly. But he felt personally really bad that e-bikes are charged the same as motorcycles. So he has changed the rate. They are now reduced somewhere, I guess, in between motorcycles and bicycles. The second thing, and more important, is that captains now have full discretion whether to do the 2 eliminated runs in the winter. So that if we have a lot of cars in line, and generally speaking, I think when a captain sees 15 cars in line, they'll do another run. I don't know exactly, but it's his discretion. And that's for the 10:30 and 11 and the 2:30 and 3. If he gets there, if he leaves at 2, for instance, and there's 20 cars in line, he's gonna come back at 3. And that's up to them. In the last couple of days, we've had at least one passenger being left on the quay side and created all kinds of bad feelings on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. I have written, yesterday I wrote to Derek Dotsie, who is the crew manager. He was not in the office, and today I wrote Bill Gary just to say that this is not a good view for the ferry crew. I think in general, the ferry crews have been really supportive of the island and tried to do a good job and try to get everybody on board. I know that we squeeze cars together way too close. Everybody that's been on the ferry that couldn't open their door is aware of this. But this one instance, if it's 1 or 2, I'm not really clear. It's just not good. And so I have written, I expect to hear back. A much bigger issue that we have to discuss at some time, I think, is the proposal for the ferry to sleep in Lincolnville. This is definitely on the proposal list. They want to close the crew house, which frankly, I can understand. Part of the reason I published the crew salaries in the last news was because so people would know what we're paying. Right now, just for those of you that don't know, the state pays half of the costs of running the ferry and the fares pay the other half. That's the way it's divided up, and I don't see changing that. But because of the people they've hired, some of the people haven't been responsible living in the crew house. Captains generally don't live there. We had one that used to, but he's gone, he retired. One lives on the island and one's rented a house on the island. So it's become an unsafe place, especially for women to live at. And so that's that. The ferry service wants to close the crew house. I think it's a whole nother issue whether the ferry should sleep in Lincolnville. I think that the lack of a breakwater there, and I brought this up at the last meeting, I have no idea what effect it's gonna have, wasn't contradicted by anybody in the room. The ferry needs, if it's gonna live in Lincolnville, it needs a serious breakwater to the south so that it doesn't beat its way through the dock, and I see Mert agreeing with me, and I think anybody, both captains on the run now, both agree with that. So that's gonna have to be done. But in my conversations with Fred, I noted, he expressed, that he likes having the ferry on the island because it's a good safety backup for him to get somebody ashore if he needs to. And so I'm not sure it's in our best interest at all that the ferry live in Lincolnville. There's also problems in the tariff. It says crew members are supposed to live near the ferry, which if they're in the house or on the island, they're near enough. If it's in Lincolnville and they're driving from home to the Lincoln, it could be an hour before they're ready to move the ferry out. That issue hasn't been decided yet. But I have a feeling that if ourselves and North Haven made enough of a stink, we might get this situation looked at.
Thanks, Peter. That is a lot. You just covered a lot of ground very quickly. And I don't mean to cut you off. I just know Steve has had his hand raised for a while and I'm not sure which of those topics he had a question or comment on. So before we go further, Steve, do you wanna?
You're
Oh,
muted.
you're muted.
I'm pathetic at that. Anyway, I didn't hear, which side did someone get left on to start off your point?
I think it was in Lincolnville.
And what they're saying that the ferry left early or they.
No, the ferry left, as I understand it, the ferry left at 1:01, I believe, is when it left. And the person was running down the docks with 2 bags in his hands, and the crew was all laughing as they raised the gate. And this was expressed by some people on the Facebook page, on Islesboro, and people are upset about it.
All right, well, I mean, they're always upset about, I mean, that's just an ongoing Facebook, if you leave my watch said X and, all right, so I understand that. So the other question I have is, there's not a real, I mean, nobody who's ever been on a boat would think that overnighting the ferry on that side with the prevailing southern breezes 9 months a year is a good idea. So, and it does, I mean, it counters, I don't know how many years the ferry's been running, but it counters X amount of years of safety they're throwing out the window. So, is there, or I should ask, how are we putting together an argument to counter that? I know John spent a lot of time doing that. Has any of our points had a traction? It doesn't sound like it.
Well, I think this evolved because of the need to close the crew house. And that is a pretty serious need.
So why is the crew house so bad?
Lack of supervision. There have been people.
Adults.
I'm sorry, but I want to make sure that I understand this. They want to close the crew house because it is not safe for the female crew members to stay there with the male crew members.
Probably anybody, probably without getting sexual orientation into it, but that's been expressed by some of the females that have worked there.
So we have to pay for the male crew members' sexual harassment?
Well, I would say that the ferry service is worried about it becoming a lawsuit. And so they just want to close the crew house.
That's
Something doesn't seem.
That's a false negative. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Well-
like I'm fine with protecting women, absolutely. But us having to pay because the crew members who we've also seen do not really have a lot of respect for people, are not having respect for their own shipmates. And that's pretty,
Well, I mean, the examples of this are the number of times that crew members have been so drunk the next morning they couldn't report for work, and that's happened. And it's also happened that somebody went up drunk to the airport and did so many donuts, he got stuck and had to get towed out with a 4-wheel pickup. So now, just another little sidebar.
That individual was charged and that was prosecuted in the court.
Okay. I wondered about crewing the boat here on the island, and I was discussing this with an able-bodied seaman who lives on the island. And in his estimation, and I trust the guy, 70% of the people on the island who might be interested in applying for that job are not interested in taking the drug test. And that is a huge problem everywhere right now, because as marijuana is made more legal in more states, the Coast Guard still has a regulation against it, and they still test it. If you smoked in the last month, they're gonna know. That's the problem we have. If we could get to change the test a little bit, but getting the Coast Guard to do that is very, very, very hard, and I don't wanna, but that's where we're at. I'm reporting it more or less.
Well, I mean, I want to say thank you I think that you handled the concerns, the public concerns about the boat leaving very well in making sure that it was communicated to the folks that have the ability to provide feedback and make meaningful change. So thank you for doing that in a really proactive way. Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Kind of a thought or possible solution to the housing at the Berry Cruise Quarters. I was processing, thinking how come fire stations that have houses of male and female and crew don't seem to have a bigger problem ferry service? Now, whether
They have
they're
frontline supervisors there.
stays at that firehouse and oversees the action of the house and responsible, that might be different. I think the ferry service crew doesn't have anything tight enough to have those protections in place. I can see the point, I can see the concern, and that is a big concern of the safety amongst that. They're all adults. They shouldn't need a babysitter. But in this day and age, this world probably does. So a lot more work has to be looked at.
Yeah, I mean, my personal feeling on it, I mean, I agree, it's an employment issue. If you do not behave yourself, you should not keep your job. And so from that perspective, I personally feel like the best, like the traction that makes the most sense to me is the weather and protection of the harbor and emphasizing why for us, it doesn't make sense to have the ferry in Lincolnville and emphasizing, you know, however they solve their problem with the housing. You know, I think you have some good ideas. It's a matter of what is the right role for us as a community to provide feedback in a way that is helpful and as easy as possible for them to say, yes, this makes sense. Let's keep our operating procedures and change as far as the ferry operation goes and ferry on Islesboro and change so that they change what they need to in order to make sure that their crew is responsible and safe.
Well, remember that, sorry, at the moment, they've used a out-of-state employment agency to fill vacancies on the boats because they can't keep them running. That's the fact of the matter.
So I just want to make sure, part of the problem is that the crews are too drunk sometimes in the morning to work on the boats. So we know one, we'll say, I'm not gonna generalize, okay. Here's my question, if there's an emergency run in the middle of the night and that crew is drunk, what do we do then? Are they allowed to work when they're drunk?
Theoretically not.
Right.
So this seems like a ferry service thing and like them being proper leadership.
I think at the moment, there's no regulation against them drinking when they're in the ferry. Near the crew house.
So there is actually a regulation.
They're being paid for that time. They're paid for 80 hours in their 1 week. That's why people love that job. Believe me, I would have loved those hours when I worked at the ferry. They're paid for 80 hours and they're out here for
But
1
you're
week.
working 80 hours.
No,
Yeah, you are.
you have 10-hour
It's from-
days,
All right, 10-hour days times 7 is 70 hours.
but you are on call for emergency.
Well, but at the moment, there's no regulation against drinking in the crew house.
There is not,
There's not.
nor sexual harassment.
Well, oh, sure there is about sexual harassment. Oh, yeah.
Also.
And we've lost superior female crew.
Yeah.
Because of this mess. It's a huge issue and we, as a community, need to support. We have the best,
Yeah, I know.
the woman who got the most stars on that ferry for many years, we lost an excellent crew member on this topic. And we have to take a strong stance. It's ridiculous what went on when I worked at the ferry. I gotta tolerate it.
I have to say, I'm just surprised that they when they're here for their week and they're staying in crew housing, that they're allowed to become inebriated when there could be an emergency and they might have to operate the boat. I'm just stating that.
Absolutely, there should be lots of rules and regulations, the captain obviously should be in charge.
But he's not
And-
there, Mike.
But, yeah, I know, but he
He's not
should be able to tell people, listen up, you know? I know there's not a lot of leadership there, you know, there's a lot of people who just have a driver's license, you know, a learner permit, basically. But there's gotta be rules and regulations, and somebody's gonna speak up and say something,
Sorry.
you know? No, you're right.
I'll do that one. I'm
It's
sorry.
very bad. I
The
want
thought of these guys driving across, like guiding the ambulance with somebody who could be injured onto the boat, drunk, something happens. I mean, yeah, that's ridiculous and all of that, but.
Right, this brings up a whole nother much larger issue, which is the
Yes.
ferry's interest and willingness to provide emergency transport at all. So I think, you know, that is not something that they're particularly interested in doing in the long term either, so I think to your issue, to the issue about the staying in Lincolnville, I know you mentioned moving, that you thought that that there may be some shared interest with North Haven in, working together on messaging. What do you think is the best way for us to go about working with the reps on North Haven to come up with a strategy for?
Well, I think the easiest thing to do is I can get in touch with John Emerson, who's the head of the Maine State, and he is the North Haven rep. And say, John, this is the way we're feeling here in Islesboro, how do you guys feel? And can we work together to make a stronger voice? And see what he says. He's been on the ferry board for years and years.
Are they looking to move all of the ferries to the mainland or just Islesboro?
No, there's only 3, I believe, that live on the islands now. Vinyl Haven has 2 boats, so it switches. One lives there at night. One lives at North Haven at night and one lives at Islesboro at night.
Okay.
And those 2, we would propose keeping.
And right now Swans lives on the mainland, is that
I
true?
guess so, Shay, yeah, yeah.
If, I'm not the oldest person in the room, but, history, I seem to remember, whether it's in the tariff or written somewhere, that when these ferries were built, might have been in the Muskie days, ferry was supposed to home port in all the islands to provide emergency evacuation of the island. Somewhere it's written that. If you can find it, it's probably been updated and scratched off.
Well, I think that's right, Mark, but I'll also say that the ferry service is willing to give us $300,000 to buy our own boat. Now, parallel to this,
That's a wash of hands, but yes.
yes, that's right, it is. And it's not as good as a boat you can drive the ambulance onto and drive it off on the other side. Absolutely. But I
We
think,
all agree that they're trying to get out of emergency transport business.
Yeah, they say that, I'll tell you that in your face.
but at the moment, I think Fred's only using it about 4 or 5 times a year, and he likes
Not to
having
be an
it.
inconvenience to the crew.
Yeah, and it's not a huge inconvenience, and it's a good safety for him.
Pete, hold on, Pete had.
Well, I just wanted to get back to the issue that I know you and I have already somewhat spoken about, relating to the recent bad press, via social media. And I just feel the need to point out on record that it is not a matter of just 1 or 2 instances. And it is not a matter simply of the town always finding something to complain about. There's a pattern here involving the crew that we have on currently, I believe, or that may have just stepped off. That I had a friend of mine recently, about 4 days ago, tell me about a similar incident in which she felt very uncomfortable being parked where she was being told to park. She tried to say something along the lines of, "This is not happening for me." The employee was rather hostile. She ended up crying on the boat and hearing this same employee, who I believe you may have seen one of the things I've sent you. I don't know if you got the second one. And shortly thereafter, I told her, it had to have been a misunderstanding. Maybe you just misheard what the guy was doing. And then I heard 24 hours later from another individual who said that this particular person has driven them, put them down a side aisle, and they should have been in the center, caused damage to their vehicle, and was hostile toward them the entire time. And then it pops up on Facebook that that with a 101, there's someone running down the ramp and they're leaving, potentially laughing at this person. I personally, a few weeks back, got to Lincolnville, it was 12:50. The lady in the line attendant was yelling at me to get out of the boat and hurry up with my goodbyes because the boat was about to leave. And I looked at her and I said, well, it's a good thing we've got 10 minutes before the boat leaves. I'm gonna finish saying goodbye to my parents and I will walk the boat when the time is appropriate. I asked one of the people, one of the deckhands, you know, is this something that, like, you hear about this happen, the boat leaving a few minutes ahead of time? And the defense is always, well, the ticket tells you to be there 15 minutes early. My understanding, and it could be ignorance here, is that the purpose of that is to ensure that the tickets are checked off, you're in line, you're where you need to be. It is not a free pass for the captain to decide that he wants to run the 11 o'clock boat at 10:45, right? The deckhand I spoke with said, well, sometimes when it's slow, the captain makes the call to leave a couple minutes early, and the deckhand even said, but boy, if I got stuck on that side, I'd be pretty pissed. So I just wanna make sure that, like, it's not coming across just as like small town bitching on Facebook, and this is an issue that, like, we spend a ton of money as taxpayers and users of that service. We sort of get taxed twice to use this service, and to have even one employee causing, you know, the people who pay his salary, that kind of anguish is like flabbergasting. And I just hope that, you know, Mr. Geary takes this to heart and can respond to us with a plan of action to make sure that, you know, either his out-of-state employees are trained better, or, like, you know, the problem, it has to stop it. And if there truly is a captain's discretion as to when to leave, like within 5 or 10 minutes, we've got to make that public, because boy, that's news to me.
No, one thing that's happening now is there's a relief captain now because the Islesboro captain is on medical leave.
Sure.
And I think that's creating some of the problems. I don't know this for a fact.
Yeah, I don't
I'm just
expect you to
guessing,
have
because I've been pretty impressed with both captains that are on there now. One lives just over the other side, and one lives here on the island.
Right.
And I think they're both pretty good guys that are concerned about what's going on. The relief captain, I don't know who it is.
No, and I don't expect you to have the solution or the answer. I just want to make sure that you have, you know, the full picture, that it is not written off as, well, they've always got something to complain about. That it is understood that this is a valid point of concern, it is repeated points of concern. And it's clearly nothing's changing, or nothing has changed. And it would be nice to see some action taken.
No, I think the boat is not supposed to leave before an hour. Sometimes I've been there. If there's nobody in sight, you can leave it 1 minute before. But I will say what one captain commented to me today is that the schedule's tight. And it's really easy to get a couple minutes here, a couple more minutes, and pretty soon you're an hour overdue. And so there's some pressure to get the boat underway. And if the captain looks up and sees nobody's coming, a minute before, he might take off.
Yeah.
But it, you know.
That's just, I mean, from my years and years of working in customer service, you know, if your hours say you're open till 11, you stay there till 11. You know, I say that hypocritically as I closed down my business when, you know, I haven't seen a customer in 2.5 hours, but I'm funding a business as one man. I'm not a state agency. I'm not a corporation running a Circle K gas station. I'm not a Hannaford. You know, in a situation like this, if it says 11, it needs to be 11. And if a passenger says they're not comfortable being parked where they're going, that should be at least somewhat respected, you know? But I just want to make sure that you understand where I'm coming from, and then I would like that message passed along.
I second all of that. I've witnessed unbelievable rudeness to elders with luggage, and the crew unwilling to help an elder lady trying to get her luggage on and laughing at her. This was 1.5 years ago. And I saw more than one incident of terrible rudeness with a previous crew. Some of them are still working, who were very unhelpful.
Yeah, I mean, if we're being jerks to them, then I would expect to have someone be a jerk back to me, but I feel like almost all these instances, like, we're pretty well trained not to be rude to ferry service employees, lest we face the ire of any number of people or the service itself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I do think Peter has communicated this to the concerns to the captains and to the higher ups at the ferry service. And so I think, as things unfold, I guess either feedback that you hear from them, perhaps in a future update, and if we continue to have issues, I appreciate you being kind of that communication channel to make sure that people understand what our concerns are more frequently than every 2 weeks, or every 2 months when the meetings happen. I think, having those relationships is really helpful. And I guess the other thing I would say is if you feel like, I don't know, if you feel like you need us to give a blessing to work with John Emerson on North Haven, but I certainly would want to give kind of full endorsement to ask you to coordinate with North Haven to develop a strategy and whatever we can do to help on that front. I appreciate you moving that conversation forward too.
If I can just make a site slide note, with going back to what Mert had said about previously written in the tariff, that the ferry was supposed to have been here, the way that Mert recited it wasn't necessarily as a emergency as needed, like for a ferry run. Maybe I'm still in hazard mitigation mind. I'm thinking as evacuation. There is a big storm coming. There is something major that has happened. And having it here as part of our hazard mitigation in order to get as many people as possible to the mainland during an after hours incident. I would like to have, I think it would be beneficial to have that put in there also, as quoting Mike Tyson, we still need to have the plan until you get punched in the mouth. That was initially put in there for it. Not just, the ambulance runs help subsidize it, but we are in a time of climate change and crisis, and different things are going to start happening. If we get to the point where we have 30 people that have now lost their housing and we need to get them across to services of Red Cross, the ferry would be the way that we would have to mitigate it. And so, thank you.
Anything else ferry related? Go ahead.
What is our town stand for the female crew members we're now even more aware of not feeling safe to stay in the ferry crew building? We need to support. We've had long-term female crew members who serve our island and for many years, and they have left the ferry service, and it's related to this topic.
No, I mean, certainly we need to make sure that we're communicating that to the ferry service, because that is unacceptable to have anybody experience sexual harassment in the workplace. So.
Yeah, lack of safety in there, given lodging.
Are they wanting to shut down North Haven's crew housing also?
I believe so. I think that's the plan. I think the ferry service is really scared of having free housing and being responsible for it and not being able to hire people that are responsible enough to enjoy it.
What about Vinyl Havens?
Well, that has 2 boats, and so it still has 1 boat living there overnight.
But don't they still have to have crew housing for Vinyl Haven?
I
For
think
that?
I think they will
That was my
continue
question.
that, yeah. That would be
Okay.
my understanding.
I have the feeling that maybe the town ought to figure housing for the irresponsible crew member. And the town also made it clear, and I hope that this would be true, that in this situation, we'd be willing to swallow a couple of missed boats because there wasn't enough crew members. Because somebody Fred found housing for them someplace and there wasn't a full crew, I think it's intolerable that people are allowed to misbehave, put it nicely, either in terms of with dealing with women in the house or just in terms of getting drunk. And it's like they can do that because they know they have to be on the crew to make the 7:30 boat. And I think if the island made it clear that we would let people miss the 7:30 boat, let there not be a 7:30 boat, or not be a boat until the crewing situation was straightened out.
Well, that's a big supposition, frankly.
Yeah.
Ferry crew now the ferry service now is looking at a mid 90th percentile of on time passages for all the fleet. And they're really reluctant to piss that away.
If they pay the crew members more, would that help?
Do you think? I published it in the last paper. It's there. I mean, the captains now make over 100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that's working, you know, a week on where you're working almost double time and a week off. So you're pretty much working, you're pretty much putting in a full year's work. And, that's for you guys to decide if we're paying them enough. I mean, I looked at it and I thought, for the education you need and the, you know, it's, we're paying them enough. That's not the issue. The issue is getting the people. And the issue is the drug test, which is a big thing. And something else I might mention now is that the new Matinicus boat, the Shay, is being run as a subchapter T boat under 100 tons, which the Margaret Chase Smith and the new ferry are. To run a subchapter T boat, you don't need a licensed engineer, you don't need licensed APs, you need 2 or 3 deckhands. And all they have to do is not even take a physical, but pass a drug test. And a licensed captain, who has a lot less license than the guys on the boat currently do. Right now, they're running them, the state is volunteering to run them as larger vessels. And I think they're looking at it going, well, what the heck are we doing this for? Now they've decided, no, we really don't want to do that. And the new Shay is gonna be run as a 100-ton vessel.
But the insurance will let them do that.
What's that?
But the insurance lets them do that.
It's a Coast Guard regulation. If the vessel's under 100 tons, you can run it as a 100-ton vessel. That's what the law is for.
Mm.
And, right now they run them as 500-ton vessels. That'll be a big change. And I don't think, I mean, having an engineer on board, I ran a subchapter T boat for many years, and it's the attitude of the people that makes a big difference. You know, if you have people that are trying to do a good job, they'll do a good job. Nothing so complicated that you need a college education to do it.
Steve has his hand raised.
Yeah, I just want to go back because I think it's a concern to me that every individual needs, you know, that's in that facility, you know, needs to be protected. I believe that, but I don't want to go in the minutes that we've stated that 2 females have, you know, left specifically because of that. I mean, in the years I've been here, especially the last few, you know, the 2 long-term female employees, you know, that are not currently on the boat are not there because of that issue. So if there's someone who knows specifics about that, then I think we need to investigate that and bring the specifics to the state of Maine. But to make a blanket statement that at least 2 have left because of that, either we're going to investigate that and confirm it, or we need to state that that was an opinion and we decide we want to investigate that further or not.
Well, one definitely left.
Last point, and then comment to that, but then I think, you know, the main thing we're trying to determine here, and there's been 5 or 6 points here, is where, you know, where does the boat belong at night? And, you know, from a island perspective. And we need to focus on that aspect and the secondary issues that are not secondary in importance, but is we need to address that as well. But go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, as far as one woman went, she went to another boat in the ferry service. And that was specifically the reason why, because she didn't want to live in the crew house anymore. She rented a house on Islesworth for a while, and then she just left completely.
Okay, then I think when we understand, we are probably liable if we're not, if someone knows that and we've been told that and we don't bring that to the state, then that's on us. And we need to make sure we're reporting things. You can't monitor a frat house. The captains aren't there to monitor that. These are not well-paid individuals. It's not like other, you know, ships where, you know, so I don't want to go off on a tangent, but it's a problem. If we want to close down that facility, then we're gonna move the boat to the other side. If we want the boat over here, we need that facility and we need to know how to, to be able to maintain it, or maintain the decorum that should be there. Those two are combined issues.
So I can
You're thinking not.
I can without a doubt
You'll have to.
say that that female crew member was not safe there. That several inequities, including her unsafe housing, caused her to leave Islesboro where she wanted to stay and actually move up. And she was not enabled. It's a systemic issue. It's a huge issue of inequity, sexism, not lack of safety for women, the way we are treated, disrespectful. And I do believe as an island, we need to have a statement that supports our longtime female crew member who I am aware, and now I'm aware that Peter's aware. And we need to have a statement that supports, I mean, it's no joke why we can't find crew members. 51% of workers are women. There you go. We had 3 women on the crew, we'd be all set. So we have to make a statement. This has been going on for years. We know that that crew member was struggling for years. Have we supported her? I don't believe so. Every time I drive up to her, I say, okay, you're gonna be the captain someday, don't give up. But it's such a sexist system, and she was not safe to stay here. She actually sought legal help. Are we gonna back her? Can we back her and give her legal support? I mean, we do need to have a statement for our female crew.
I mean, I think absolutely people need to be, I am not aware of the specifics of this. I am not trying to, I think it sounds like, I don't know what communication has already happened to the state. Certainly, it is important for them to be aware of concerns related to safety, equity, all of that, to make sure that they can keep people who are already employed safe and attract people so that they can keep the boats running. It sounds like Peter is doing a good job to me of communicating concerns as he is aware of them. And I think, it will be informative to understand what the response is to the communications that he's had just over the past couple of days. Is there anything else on this topic? We do need to move forward in the agenda. I know that this is an important topic for the community.
November 3rd, winter schedule starts.
November 3rd, winter schedule starts, although it sounds like that will be dependent on the captain's.
What was that?
November 3rd, the winter schedule starts.
Yes, it does. That was despite the island's recommendation. The big
Despite them
change is
asking
that
for a
captains
report.
now do have the option. They don't have to call Rockland. They can just do another run. And that's good.
Yep.
That's a step.
Great, thank you, Peter, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, sea level rise update, our next committee meeting is. Our next committee meeting is tomorrow. I know that our GZA engineers have reached out to the DEP and the federal, their name is gonna escape me, but the federal board to have a pre-application meeting to understand what the permitting concerns will be. I don't think that those meetings have been scheduled yet, but meeting tomorrow at 5:30. Cool. Are there any questions? Update on municipal building projects. Lauren is not here and I don't have any further update.
Looks like there's a building behind
Right,
us.
it's going up fast. Upcoming meetings and subcommittee reports, general election, November 5th from 8 to 8 here at the town office. We also have a joint meeting scheduled with this Lincolnville Select Board. It sounds like that meeting is going to be here, which is fantastic. I think that's the first time they've come here instead of us going to them. So that actually, I'll make sure to email Peter, is a good meeting to make sure that he hopefully can attend because, they have done a good job of communicating their concerns about the and updates in Lincolnville. And planning board meeting November 18th. Any other subcommittee or,
Energy Committee, November 12th.
Do we have any updates on the municipal building?
I don't, Lauren is out sick tonight, so I don't have any.
Pete Anderson. Isn't he on the board?
Not this one, the other Pete Anderson is.
No, I know, the other guy, the other one. Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah,
if he
I'm
was-
starting also to, I told Lauren, I participated in a initial call last week. Talking to them about it, but it was an introductory, so I don't have an update for you on it.
Do you have anything specific that you want us to?
No, I just just been busy, I haven't been following along, I just wanted to see what was going on with the updates and who's doing what and see how, different actually, that well.
They were making good headway with, finding someone to, erect the Up Island garage though, right? The last time we spoke with her, she had good things to say about finding, I can't remember who exactly, it might be in the minutes actually. That they didn't have good luck finding someone to build it, they were feeling very optimistic about it coming in under budget
And Northport Builders, I think.
well, yeah,
Wasn't at the
Yes.
last meeting, but it probably at the
that's my
previous,
most neutral. one.
Yeah.
previous meeting. It wasn't in these last minutes,
Oh, right.
so probably the previous.
The ninth, there's no update.
Yeah, I think it was the meeting before that.
So that would have been
Great.
9:25 minutes.
Yeah, actually, I think that, well, those minutes are on.
They're on the
Line,
website.
so we did have a pretty extensive discussion then and approved the metal building company to start moving forward on the Up Island Public Safety Garage. So the details of that are in those minutes. Anything else on meetings and subcommittee reports?
Congratulations to the Lighthouse Committee for being able to start 501c.
All right. We have no town manager reports. Janet is out sick tonight.
We do have a town manager.
Oh, you do? Excellent.
report. Oh, you did this, I thought.
No, I haven't seen it.
Everybody. No, she's talking to us.
You don't respond to my email earlier either, so.
No, she's there.
All right, yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Agenda and minutes, we have looked at. Just that we have in our packets the Harbor Committee minutes from their 7/18 meeting and their 7/15 and the 7/15 Housing Committee minutes. And the September 17th Energy Committee minutes are all in our packet. She highlights the correspondence from Peter Wilcox about the Ferry Service Advisory Board and the situation report, which are all in our packet. As well as the MDOT Strategic Plan and Emphasis Area Report, which is in our packet. The Bar Harbor Wealth Management Sub-Accounting Report from 9:30 and 10:07 copy of the letter sent to the Lincolnville Select Board from Mackenzie Kurzbergen regarding the Lincolnville Ferry Terminal Project. It sounds like on October 11th, the town sent out 21 to 45 day foreclosure notices totaling $49,770. I don't, it says, I'm just reading, I'm on the paper here.
No.
On October 11th, we sent out 21 to 40, oh, maybe it's 21 45 day foreclosure notices totaling $49,770. So we'll have to ask, and we have been awarded a risk pool reduction grant of $3,000 for purchasing and installing security cameras for the town office and the fire station. I don't
That
have
might
any-
be, Shay, I just heard that, that those cameras are not probably thought about in the new facility. Somebody should make a note of that. Make sure that we include that in the wiring of that up island fire facility.
Yeah. Good thought, Steve. Any other questions or comments that I think at best we can record for Janet to follow up with an email when she's feeling better? Okay. With that, then we have no old business on the agenda. No other new business. Is there any other business that people want to bring up right now? Great. If not, then our next item is to approve warrant number 9. I don't have the paperwork.
Can we get a New Zealand report, or is that improper at this point?
I'll comment that briefly under my chair comments.
Okay.
I don't have it to view or to sign either. And so,
No.
I don't know. Let me check and see if it's on her door.
Yeah, or, yeah. I know Brian was here earlier.
See, now I don't see it, but
All right. No.
I don't see it.
Is there anything, is Brian's not still in his office, is he?
No.
Well, that could be problematic. I know you,
can we make a motion to approve with signing of the warrant tomorrow when I can look at it? Because it's payroll.
yeah. Yeah, well, you've got payroll and then there's all of the warrants that need to be paid.
Right.
So, yeah, I think maybe we should approve it and come ask Tina, we can come in tomorrow and sign the documents. Does that feel comfortable?
Yeah.
All
You
right,
never question what's on it anyway, so
If we roll online, we can sign them anyway, so
that's true.
moved. Or so motion.
you got it. You're moving to approve warrant number 9.
So moved.
I'll be back on the island tomorrow. Does that require me to stop in and do a signature? Just,
Yes, please.
okay.
Maybe what we'll do is we'll ask Tina to send out us an email, or Carrie, one of you, can you send us an email when there's stuff ready to sign, and then we'll come in and sign it?
Okay.
Okay. Great,
Second on the motion.
great. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Steve?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Shay, aye. All right, no appointments tonight. And chair comments, thank you. New Zealand was absolutely amazing. They have a gigantic mussel industry that they harvest what we do in a year in a day, which was just like crazy to see the scale. And it's a beautiful country. The people were very nice, and I appreciate everyone handling things while I was away. Melissa, comments?
No comment. Congratulations to the Lighthouse.
Pete?
I was congratulate Lighthouse as well, and hopefully Gary can find a nice way to put into words that it's nice to see so many people in town showing up to important things and getting involved.
Yes, yeah,
So
Wilson.
I'll let you adapt that however you so choose. It's gonna be like a middle finger emoji or something.
Go ahead, Ken.
Just quickly, a couple of. You're all aware that the boathouse is now shingled.
Yes.
So the boathouse is done. We're going to move it back onto its foundation sometime this fall. That's being paid for by the insurance, so there's no cost there. And the tower will be complete this week.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Steve, you get the last word.
No comment, but that sounds like great news there. So congratulations as well.
Great. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
As soon as it gets 10 past the hour, I officially forget which order the so moves, the seconds, and the so ons go.
Motion second.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Motion.
Thank you.
Very proud of you.
Where's it going?
So Debbie?
That's amazing. That's funny. A birthday. And so I absolutely, I'm sure it's That's amazing. What's she like? Yes, please, just, where do they